A few other channels recently have been posting about what it's been like to live with autoimmune conditions, and as I'm sure many of you know, I suffer from 2 or 3 of those, and and in a previous video, which I'll leave a link above to, I talked about having depression and hypothyroidism. But I thought it might be interesting to talk a little bit about what it's like to live with an autoimmune condition if you are the partner of somebody who has an autoimmune condition.
So you're talking about living with someone else's, or living with autoimmune conditions by proxy?
Yes.
It's hell in there, you know.
So I thought, I know what it's like from where I am. It's not much fun a lot of the time. But for Mr. J, who has to live with the ups and downs of my autoimmune diseases, I thought that would be an interesting. And also, I've never been brave enough to ask, so now's my chance.
I might not be brave enough to answer.
So when we first met, at that point I had depression, but I wasn't diagnosed with hypothyroidism or Hashimoto's. Mm-hmm. I had some Raynauds.
Yeah.
Probably didn't know what else I was on the scale of.
I was going to say you were running about 12 miles a day.
I was very fit.
A little bit weird, which is one of the reasons I liked you so much.
So that was when we first met, and then within a couple of years, things started all going terribly wrong, and not with us. We were all right, but with my health, and eventually the doctor started diagnosing hypothyroidism. What was it like for you?
Prior to you being diagnosed and prior to the doctors going through the diagnostic route, we'd obviously had a couple of holidays where you'd got sick, or you'd got very dodgy on your legs, or you just suddenly piled on the weight, and it didn't seem to make any sense. Now, was that something to do with flying? Were you becoming allergic to the northern hemisphere, or what? And some of that weight and so forth disappeared when you got back, but it was quite a slow process, wasn't it?
Yeah.
So that was just a bit odd. And then you started getting really cronky.
Yeah.
And your moods were all over the place as well. Now, because of your depressive side, I didn't know what was what, particularly as you got sicker in the winter. So it got very, very difficult to work out what was that and what might be something else. What might just be you'd had a bad day, and what might just be I'd done something that I didn't know what it was, and what might just have been some of the stresses that we were under anyway, with things like the death of my mother and all the things that were going around that. So it's actually quite difficult to pinpoint that this specific thing is because of the hypothyroidism, or because of the Hashimoto's, or because of the adrenal fatigue, from the perspective of your behaviour. Unless, of course, you're telling me my kidneys are screaming, or you're getting the twitches, and all the physical side of some of the side effects of your thyroid packing up became more apparent, then that's much easier to pinpoint, right, that's a thyroid issue. But when it's something fairly vague, it's very difficult to do.
Yeah.
Made life interesting, and I had to watch what I said quite a lot.
Was I very snarky? That's okay. I think you can say it. The part of the point of this is to be as honest as possible about how tough or easy that was.
And if you never see me again, you know I was too honest.
He's all right. He's safe.
Yeah, I've got the keys. Yeah, it was tough because I didn't know quite what did.
So then after the diagnosis, my GP just diagnosed that my thyroid was not functioning properly. Here, have these tablets, go away, come back in a year.
Yeah. Now, fortunately, you are the sort of person who does an awful lot of research. You look into things. Your familial medical background, I think, has been valuable in that as well. So you were looking up and actually doing a lot of research without getting into Dr. Google hypochondria, and you found out a lot more about what the problem was. The downside to that, of course, is you end up telling the doctor his job.
Yeah.
It's not such a problem on this side of the bridge, but on that side of the bridge, they don't like that.
It was not the it was not the most cooperative GP that I've ever seen who was prepared to work with me. He very much worked from his computer screen, and the numbers mattered, and how I felt didn't. It changed when we moved here.
It did.
Yeah.
Significantly for the better. The diagnosis was obviously a useful thing because it gave a name to what was happening. And we'd had 2 or 3 really scary months, actually, when you were really poorly, when your health absolutely landslid.
Yes.
You went right down to the bottom of the heap. And you had your 3-4 months where you were basically in bed 23 hours a day. And
at that point, my thyroid wasn't working, my adrenals were struggling, and because it would appear to have been such a long time with my thyroid getting worse and worse, during that process all my internal systems hadn't been working, so I wasn't absorbing any vitamins, or not enough vitamins and minerals that I need. So I was beginning to display all sorts of symptoms of quite severe malnutrition or undernutrition. And that wasn't any fun, was it?
No.
And I was getting, head to toe rashes. I could hardly walk. It was horrid, wasn't it?
And also because of your research pinpointed a lot of this.
Yeah.
Whereas the medics on the other side of the bridge were testing for all sorts of outrageous things.
Yeah.
Scabies and I can't even remember some of them.
Well,
now.
adrenal collapse
they did a Parkinson's test as well, didn't they?
They did all sorts of stuff.
And once it was more apparent what the problem was, and once we were taking the action that needed to be taken to make sure that you topped up your minerals and things, he says, pointing at the pills you haven't taken this morning yet.
Yeah.
That gradually improved.
It did.
Moving here, obviously, as we've said before.
At rock bottom, I was not convinced that I was going to make it.
At rock bottom, I wasn't convinced you were going to make it either.
Yeah.
And
I did. Okay, so I'll stop mincing around. At rock bottom, I actually thought I was dying. I couldn't actually see how my body could be in so much pain and dysfunctioning so much, and my muscles were just twitching and not just twitching, so uncontrollable jerking and spasms, and the pain.
The pain when she kicked me.
The pain of just lying in bed. If I stood up, the pain was 3 times as bad. It was really horrid, and luckily that only lasted about 3 or 4 months. And once the artificial thyroxine started working and the vitamins and minerals started working, that improvement became quite rapid, didn't it?
Yeah, relatively rapid. It was not as rapid as your downhill slide, actually.
No.
Because you went from niggled and not feeling great to pretty much flat on your back very quickly.
Yeah, I mean, it was probably 2 months or something.
And I suspect that the adrenaline of dealing with things like my mum's death and the funeral and starting to sell her house and sorting that actually stopped that happening sooner.
Yeah, very possibly.
So that was also made it, going back to what I was saying earlier, it was a little difficult to tell sometimes what was what, because also we had all that going on. You know, real life doesn't stop just because someone's on the sick. You've got to get on with stuff. And that, because a lot of the stuff we were dealing with at the time was quite pressured.
And it was time pressured as well.
It was time pressured and it was emotional pressure.
Yeah.
So I was trying to go back to finding a job.
Yeah.
And then you got really sick, and that put the kibosh on that as far as I was concerned for the time being. And part of that was because, as you just said, you didn't think you were going to make it. I wasn't sure you were going to make it.
No. We'd done several trips out in an ambulance to the hospital with pains in my chest, and it was just rubbish. Anyway, that was then.
Yeah.
And it, obviously it's a vast improvement now. But you know, I can't imagine how that must have been for you to have what is effectively a fairly new girlfriend. You know, 2 or 3 years, just becoming so reliant on you.
That was tough. It was definitely tough. There were times when there were never times when I wanted to walk away, not seriously walk away. There were times when I wanted to get out of the way and
just have some space.
Have some space myself. Now, and something that we actually established before you got sick was own space being absolutely critical. And that's something we maintain and will do, because we do both need our own space. We do different things. We have different interests. And we can come together at the end of the day and talk about it, which is nice.
Yeah.
Rather than, I know I was there. So the fact that I had other interests and other things that I could deal with made that easier to cope with. And in some respects, actually, I suppose dealing with things like my mum's estate took me away from dealing with your state. But it wasn't an easy thing to deal with. And trying to second guess you a lot of the time, particularly when you were having serious brain fogs, and that was very, very scary. Partly because we'd seen the effect of UTIs on my mum.
Yeah.
And
darling, I'm just really hot. I'm just going to take my top off. Excuse me. I'm just going to take my jumper off. Oh, sorry, I had to pause because I just got too hot. So
this is actually we'll go back to what I was talking about in a minute. But this is actually one of the things that you're still suffering from as a result of this, is your thermostat, your internal thermostat, is completely and utterly up the swanny.
It's bonkers,
you
isn't
go,
it?
I mean, and early on, that was one of the early symptoms, and that was put down to menopause.
Yes.
Too many things in this actually are very similar to others, aren't they?
Yes, absolutely. And it's one of those, and which is what makes it so hard to diagnose, and actually we still don't know whether my very hot, very cold, very rapidly is menopause, or my thyroid, or
something else.
Something else. Or just that we've got the heating on and you've got 3 jumpers on and you're radiating a lot of heat at me. But that can't be the excuse every time.
No, it can't be. So you had the whole brain fog thing, which I found very scary and very difficult to deal with, because obviously trying to work out a communication system with someone who can't communicate isn't easy. When they're throwing words at you that I don't know, could you go and make me a cup of right now, is that tea, coffee or hot chocolate? Yes.
That must have been easy to live with.
The amount of times I nearly made you all 3 in one mug. And you probably wouldn't have noticed the difference at that point either.
No, probably not.
But yeah, it was tricky, and learning the coping mechanism for me was quite important. But also giving myself space and walking away occasionally and just going and doing something else. But still popping back to check that she was all right, even when she didn't know it.
I mean, actually, even now that word thing is when I'm tired, when my levothyroxine, which is the synthetic thyroxine medication, when that's not quite right, if I'm stressed, the words will come out completely wrong, or worse than that, I'll
Not at
say.
all.
Can you...
Now, we all do that. We all have word blindness from time to time. It's not a symptom of anything more than being tired or being preoccupied or slightly distracted. I wouldn't want anyone watching this to suddenly think, oh my goodness, I've got something horrible. You have, actually. It's called life. We all suffer from it. But that is... Mostly it's easier to cope with now because I know it. And with Liz, I also can very often second guess her because I know her well enough now. Back then, I only just about knew you well enough to start second guessing you. And when I second guessed her wrong in those days, oh boy, did that go down badly. You used to get really grumpy with me when I didn't second guess you correctly when you hadn't been clear in the first place. That was tough. And I had to keep telling myself it wasn't my fault and it wasn't her fault either.
That's horrible.
But it's true.
I mean, that was horrible for you.
Yeah, but it's the way it is. And when you love someone, you work a way around things like that, knowing that wasn't you being a moo cow. It was just you not being well.
Yeah. Thank you.
I'm sorry. And obviously, yes, particularly since we've moved across the bridge, and the quality of the air is so much better,
and the water,
and we've got the space, and you've got the light, and you've got the levo, and you've got much better medical support. That has all improved, and you're doing the exercise again in a totally different form.
Yeah.
But also you've got the space to stop when you need to, which is vitally important. That has all improved tremendously. You still have bad days.
Yes.
I still have to remind Liz every single day to take her pills because she forgets. They're over here.
So those are my breakfast ones.
Those are her breakfast pills from...
And it's 1:30.
Yeah. So yeah, every day I have to remind Liz to take her pills. Every day I have to make sure that they're all ready, and make sure that the stocks are kept up. And there are normally points most days when I'm having to just make sure that if there is something, see if there's something wrong because she's not quite herself. But mostly it's stuff that is fairly quickly recognised now because it's been part of our lives for 3 years. And yes, I'm fortunate I can walk away from her being cronky and grumpy, and I do.
Okay, I'm not cronky and grumpy all the time.
No, otherwise I wouldn't be here now.
One of the things that really holds us together is our sense of humour.
Oh, I thought you were going to say super glue. Other strong glues are available. Yes, it is. We laugh at a lot of the same. Not everything that we laugh at is the same. You find some things funny which I think are completely pointless, and vice versa.
Yeah.
But yeah, we do have a lot in common. We're also quite good at celebrating our differences, really, aren't we?
Yes.
Which I think a lot of people don't.
No, it's a good job, really, because there are quite a lot of them.
Yeah. Yes, I've got taste, and yours is a bit more questionable.
We have got quite a lot of differences.
But yeah, we do. We were able, even when you were at your worst, to find things to laugh at together.
Yes. Yeah. So that helped lighten the load for you.
Yeah, absolutely.
So this wasn't intended to be a woe is me, doom
and gloom
vlog at all. It was actually. It was to explore what it's like for a caregiver who hasn't necessarily
signed up for that,
and what it's like as a long-term role that's more supportive than you might be just as a couple trundling through life without the extra.
I think everybody actually has issues that the other person in their life, if they're in a partnership, has to help with.
Yes.
In some ways or other.
Yeah.
Some are more long-term, some are more medical than others.
Yeah.
but and particularly as we get older here now, there is going to be more support needed. And you're very good at supporting me and stuff.
Thank you.
And yeah, I don't have a problem with giving you the support you need most of the time. Like any other human being, there are times when it's an inconvenience to me, or the timing isn't right, or it could be, can it wait 5 minutes?
Actually, that's quite a regular one. We have actually got really good now at saying, can you come and help, or in 5 minutes, or when you've got time, and being much clearer about...
And that's something that you've learnt to do a lot better.
Yes.
You used to be very, not early on, but after you got ill, your patience level for the fact that other people might be doing other things at that time shrank further than your thyroid gland had.
I want it, and I want it now.
Yes, but you actually normally wanted it done before you'd even thought about it, and then got annoyed about the fact that you just thought about it and it hadn't been done when you'd only just thought about it.
Oh, it must have been so frustrating.
To put it mildly, yes. One other thing that we haven't talked about is dietary changes. Obviously, we've talked about artificial drugs and natural supplements. One other thing that Liz did was cut out an awful lot of things that were said to cause
more problems. Yeah.
Or to accentuate the problems she already had. And she's gone gluten-free. I have gone largely gluten-free because there's no point in cooking 2 meals or whatever, but not completely. But I don't miss that. I don't miss bread, mostly.
Bacon sandwiches.
Bacon sandwiches, yeah. So that's always the thing. You've gone caffeine-free, I haven't.
Yeah.
You've gone 99% alcohol-free. Oh, no. And those are all things that are fine. The biggest problem, honestly, with that is the fact that certain things that you want to get gluten-free alternatives for, when you find ones that are any good, they are so expensive. And I find that irritating.
Yeah. Me too.
It also irritates me that caffeine-free tea is more expensive than caffeinated tea, and I don't understand that at all. But hey. So those things are things that have to be borne in mind, and I think something you've touched on in a vlog not long ago, the fact that because of your intolerances and your things that you've cut out, we don't go out to eat, we don't get a takeaway pizza or any of that sort of stuff.
No, we don't even just pop into a pub for a meal.
No. We're healthier because of it, actually, and we're spending a hell of a lot less money on food.
Yeah.
Partly because you're growing it all, but also because we're not going out and paying the inflated prices. And that has had an impact, without a doubt, but I don't think it's a negative one.
No, I mean, our diet has changed from, not really...
Not terrible.
It wasn't good, it wasn't like super good, but it wasn't terrible, to really very healthy.
Yeah.
Except for cake.
And chocolate, and biscuits.
Really very healthy. We eat a phenomenal number. If I can't say that.
A phenomenal amount.
We eat a phenomenal amount of vegetables. We eat a lot of fruit. Everything is cooked from scratch. We eat organically wherever we can. So that's been a big change for you.
And that's been a very good change, and it's one I'm very happy that we've made. So, there are positives. And this place, as I said before, it's been very good for Liz. It's been very good for me. The fact that Liz is better has been very good for me. I think it's done our relationship no harm.
No, I think it's been great, actually.
The coping mechanisms still have to be used, but less so. And we can actually both admit now more if the other one is riling one of us than we used to be able to, because it's more likely that it's actually just life rather than Hashimoto's or thyroiditis.
Oh, you mean if I'm riling you?
Yeah. Well, no, you used to get narked with me when you were at your worst.
Yeah.
I used to, and that wasn't that you were narked with me, and it wasn't that you were narked with yourself. You just didn't know quite what was what.
No.
Now, if you're narked with me, I just go to work.
So there we go, a very brief look at some of the impact that having Hashimoto's, thyroiditis and other autoimmune conditions can have, not on the person who has them, but on the people that they love and that love them. And so, wherever you are in the world and whatever you're up to today,
Hope it's a good one.
We hope it's a good one. And I also hope you can join me again tomorrow.